Hello, I'm back again. Um, Today I was just gonna talk a little bit about the Enterprise second season episode Regeneration. That's the one with the Borg in it. Now I'm not gonna sort of go into too much um, of it. I just wanted to talk about a few little points that I think people may not have considered uh, that actually make a bit of sense in that episode with what sort of we see in other stuff, including some very important stuff about when we first met the Borg. Um, so I'm not going to go into everything, but just a couple of little points. The first, it's only a minor one, but I think the very premise that there was Borg wreckage found in the Arctic actually makes a bit of sense. The Enterprise E destroys the Borg sphere in orbit in First Contact, and there's lots of wreckage goes everywhere. That wreckage has to go somewhere. Because they're in orbit of Earth, some of it is obviously going to land on the planet. And I think that was a nice little sensible connection. We know that the Borg are pretty hardy. They can survive, some pretty tough stuff. They've survived crash landings before. That's where we came up with Hugh from in Next Gen. And so I think that little connection that makes quite a nice little bit of sense. And I'm quite sure that the Borg, having crash landed and very cold, snowy environment with little hope of rescue, would probably either shut themselves down or possibly the extreme temperatures in the Arctic may have frozen them just simply as they were, which is pretty much what we see in the episode. They're all frozen. So I think that's only a minor little thing. It's pretty logical, I suppose, when you think about it. But I think it makes a lot of sense, and is a nice little connection with what we see in First Contact. There was obviously a lot in the episode that they couldn't do, and probably some things that they shouldn't have done. But I liked one little bit. I'm not sure I liked the situation that caused it with Phlox's partial assimilation, but I did like the fact that he was mentioning that he could hear the voices or the thoughts of other Borg. We obviously didn't know what to call them, but obviously alluding to the Borg collective consciousness that we find out about later on. And I think it was nice that he thought it was some sort of telepathic contact. He didn't realize that it was, this super advanced communications system running really, really deep in subspace. That he thought it was some, telepathic sort of thing. I thought that was a nice little touch that people don't automatically always guess the right answer. If there had been, if it was some sort of scientific research project, and they had sort of taken that attitude and gone off researching that, they would have ended up in completely and utterly the wrong place. And I thought that was a nice little touch, that he was something that they didn't understand, and they leapt to a conclusion based on what they knew of the world at that time, and it happened to be wrong. And I thought that was just a nice little touch of realism, I suppose you could say, in it all. That to me sort of made a bit of sense, that they don't know about extremely powerful some deep level subspace communications, or however it was described in Next Gen and Voyager. So he was something that they just latched onto because it was something that they knew and could understand, and I liked that little bit. The other thing that I wanted to sort of talk about was something that I think actually may have been overlooked by quite a lot of people, but actually is pretty important. At the end of the episode, the little Borg ship manages to send off a signal, which Archer later tells T'Pol, was directed towards the Delta Quadrant of the galaxy. But because that's so far away, and because the technology that they were using was based on very primitive Earth technology, it would take until the mid 24th century to actually get to the Delta Quadrant because of the distance. Obviously, that was meant to be a connection back to Next Gen. Now, people may or may not have sort of connected the two, but I think that is a very nice little connection and possible explanation for the actual first time that we see evidence of the Borg in Next Gen, which was not actually Q-Who. Q-Who was the first episode where we actually saw the Borg, and still remains one of my favourite episodes. But the first time that we actually see evidence of the Borg, even though at the time we don't know it's the Borg, because we haven't met them yet, is actually the Neutral Zone, the last episode of Season 1, where the Enterprise is investigating the apparent loss of communications with various bases along the Romulan Neutral Zone. Now, that episode obviously has the people from the past and the Romulans in it, which are both important. Well, one of them less so, but the Romulans are a very important development for Next Gen. And the Romulans are investigating the same thing as the Enterprise. So we later find out in Q-Who, when the Enterprise goes to System J25, Data says that the damage that they're detecting on the planets in that system is identical to what they detected at the bases along the Neutral Zone at the end of the year before, obviously intending those bases to have been destroyed by the Borg. Now, if the signal that the little Borg ship that Enterprise encountered in 2152, I should say, arrives in the Delta Quadrant where the Borg are living at that stage, say around 2250s somewhere, 2350s. That, I think, would be a very good reason why we see what we see in Neutral Zone. Now, the Borg don't go around exploring things just for the sake of it, to go, oh, what's over here? Let's go and look at it. That's what we as humans do. That's what the Federation does. The Borg don't do that. B'Elanna had that very good line in the Voyager episode where, we explore, the Borg assimilate. That's how they gain their knowledge. Now, the Borg will go and investigate something if there is a sensible, strategic reason for doing so. If there's a civilization which they believe has an advance in technology that they lack, they'll go after that and investigate that. That makes sense. But they're not going to just go and investigate something just because it's there. So I suppose it makes a certain amount of sense if you look at it. The Borg are doing their Borgy things in the Delta Quadrant, happily assimilating people left, right, and centre, but not really worrying too much about the Alpha and Beta quadrants. They've got enough to deal with in their own little corner of the galaxy. Suddenly they get this signal, which is Borg in origin, possibly modified because it comes from modified Earth technology, telling them that they are, that the people who sent the Borg that sent the signal were sent to try and assimilate Earth. Now, they're not going to know who Earth is, but they're going to say, well, what is this Earth? Why would these Borg, who obviously have been sent back in time, be trying to assimilate them? And I would have presumed that would, I don't want to say spark curiosity, but obviously they would want to know how these Borg ended up going back in time, the reasons why, and why they're so concerned about assimilating this planet called Earth that they know absolutely nothing about. That, to me, kind of makes a bit of sense if you then think that, okay, they're going to go out and try and find who these Earth people are and why they should be interested in assimilating them. And that could be a reason why we see these bases along the Neutral Zone being destroyed, presumably by Borg, at a time when the Federation, the rest of the Federation, which, is only, core worlds of the Federation are only 20, 30 light years away, are not seeing the Borg at all. To me, it could be, the Borg have sent their little transwarp conduit making ship along. It popped out. They've sent a few Borg cubes along. They've, sort of detected these bases. They've gone along. They've beamed down, assimilated a few people, destroyed a couple of them, and then gone back to interpret the data and whatever else. Possibly saying, okay, we've still got issues we need to deal with in the Delta Quadrant, various civilizations sort of fighting against us. This is something we need to investigate over time, presumably if the Borg from the 22nd century are telling them, we failed in assimilating these people. They were able to resist us. In their case, resistance doesn't seem to be futile. That might be a bit of an explanation as to why the Borg suddenly turn up out of nowhere in 2364, if there is that reason. Because, Data says that it's going to take them 2-3 years to get back to the nearest Federation point from system J25. Now, even with Borg transwarp technology, that's going to be, that's a fair distance. To my mind, the collective isn't going to say, oh, yes, we've got all this stuff going on over here. Let's just go suddenly all the way over here in the middle of nowhere and do stuff for absolutely no reason. That doesn't make much sense. So if that signal, I think, at least partially explains why they turn up when they do. And I think a lot of people sort of may not have initially made that connection. It's I don't want to say it's a throwaway line at the end of Regeneration, but it's not, perhaps not given the emphasis that maybe it should have been. And I think that's something that we should just consider. It doesn't fully explain everything. We've got the whole issue with the Hansons and stuff, but it's possible that is at least one small step on the way to explaining how we got our contact with the Borg, and why. And yeah, that's about the end of that little rant. I may come back to that episode, and probably will come back to other Borg issues in subsequent little videos that I do. I hope you're enjoying them so far. I'm enjoying doing them. Gives me something to do for 5 minutes on an evening. I hope that you're all able to find these videos. I know that some of them have. I'm not expecting my little introduction one to suddenly, have huge numbers of following. It's 5 minutes of me just saying, hi, I'm going to do something. I hope that you're all able to find, at least at this stage, the other two, now 3, that I've done. I hope they're coming up over there on the list. Oops, sorry, that way. Looking at my screen backwards. If not, let me know, and I'll see what I can do to make it easier for you to find them. See you next time. Thank you.